You are listening to the International Radio Report. Your reactions are much appreciated. Feel free to send them to radioreport@yahoo.com. That is, radioreport@yahoo.com. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone, to the International Radio Report for Sunday, April the 13th, 2025. You're tuned to CKUT. We're here every Sunday morning with 30 minutes of news and information from the world of radio. My name's Sheldon, and Jill is with me as usual. We have a lot of information for you this week, so we're going to get right to it. A couple announcements to start out with. If you've been listening to our show for a number of years, you know that it happens every year. We have the date for the annual CKUT funding drive. It is going to be taking place from May the 2nd through May the 11th. The theme this year is called Booming and Blooming, just in time for spring. We don't have a lot of information yet. As I said, if you've been with us, you know what it's all about. If you're new to us, it is one of the major sources of income for CKUT, for a community campus radio station. So we will be doing 2 shows during the event. We'll be asking for your financial support. As soon as we have all the details, we'll get that off to you. And keep an eye on ckut.ca website, where you'll have more information popping up shortly. So mark your calendars. May the 2nd through May the 11th. Our 2 shows during that period will be aimed at raising funds for the funding drive. The other announcement is our second to last reminder. We only have a couple weeks to go before the 38th annual NASWA SWL Festival, taking place April 25th and 26th. If you have not registered by now, please do so as soon as you can if you want to participate. There are still some spaces available for the in-person event, and there's lots of spaces, obviously, for the Zoom side of the event. So go to swlfest.com to get all of the information on registering for the hotel, information on registering for the Zoom portion. Everything is there for you. If you do have any questions, the email for them is swlfest@naswa.net, and we'll put the links up on our version of the show for you. So if you want to attend, get to it as quickly as you can.
Yep, hurry up. We want to see you there. So we have some more news about the AM Radio Act that clears filibuster hurdle with Senate Supermajority. This is by Cameron Coates, Radio Inc. The AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act has reached a filibuster-proof supermajority U.S. Senate. The bipartisan bill, introduced by Senators Ed Markey and Ted Cruz, to require automakers to include AM radio in all new vehicles, has officially obtained 60 co-sponsors. The legislation was first introduced in May 2023 and reintroduced at the start of the 2025 session. It advanced through the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, chaired by Cruz and including Markey as a member in February. The growing support in the Senate mirrors the momentum the bill is gathering in the House of Representatives, where it has 129 co-sponsors. In a joint statement, Cruz and Markey commented, "With the addition of a 60th co-sponsor, our AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act hit a key milestone, demonstrating the broad bipartisan support for this common-sense bill. From emergency response to sports, entertainment, and news, AM radio is a lifeline for tens of millions of Americans. We are proud to fight for this legislation and ensure that AM radio can continue to play an important role in our constituents' lives." NAB President and CEO Curtis Legite stated, "Securing the support of a filibuster-proof majority in a Senate underscores just how vital AM radio is to public safety, local journalism, and the communities that rely on it every day. From delivering life-saving emergency alerts to keeping Americans connected with local news, sports, and diverse programming, AM radio remains an indispensable part of our national communications infrastructure. NAB is grateful to the 60 senators standing behind this bipartisan effort and thanks Chairman Cruz and Senator Markey for their leadership in championing this important legislation. America's local radio broadcasters urge both the Senate and House to act swiftly on this vital legislation. Speaking before more than 400 local broadcasters at the 2025 NAB State Leadership Conference in March, Senator Cruz voiced strong optimism for the passage of the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act under new Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who is responsible for scheduling the bill for a floor vote. So things are looking good, actually. This is good news, and hopefully it will go through.
It's hit the final stages, it looks like. So I'd be pretty confident that it's going to pass. When you can get both sides approving on something, you better get it done quickly before somebody changes their mind. Some more good news for AM radio. AM radio shines in the 2025 NABLF Service to America Awards by Cameron Coates in Radio Inc. The NAB Leadership Foundation has announced the winners of the 2025 Celebration of Service to America Awards, which honor local radio and television stations for exceptional community service across the United States. As the debate continues on Capitol Hill over whether AM radio should remain standard in new vehicle dashboards, this year's awards offer a timely reminder of the format's enduring value. 3 of the 4 top station honors are being awarded to AM stations for their life-saving work and community connection. Among the honorees, iHeartMedia's Asheville WWNC AM will receive the Small Market Award for the coverage and community service during the widespread flooding caused by Hurricane Helene. Beasley Media Group will be recognized in the Broadcast Ownership Group category for its Community of Caring initiative. The following honorees will be recognized at a ceremony on June 10th at the Anthem in Washington, D.C. So Service to Community Award, Broadcast Ownership Group, Beasley Media Group, Community of Caring. Service to Community Award, Large or Major Market, WCCO AM 830 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, owned by Odyssey, for life-saving locks for families with children with autism. The Service to Community Award, Medium Market, goes to WYCT, owned by ADX in Pensacola, Florida, for their Cat Country Cares for Kids. Service to Community Award, Small Market, to WWNC AM, iHeartMedia's station in Asheville, North Carolina, for the service called Voice in the Storm. And WBAL AM, owned by Hearst, is the winner for the Service Community Award First Informer in Baltimore, Maryland, for the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. So that's some nice work done by all of those radio stations being recognized for the efforts they put out to help their communities in the events of crisis.
Yeah, what we actually would expect and want to expect from any radio station out there if something would happen. So we have a poll. 1 in 3 Americans unsure about handing NPR federal funding. This is by Cameron Coates of Radio Inc. After NPR CEO Catherine Mayer faced intense questioning from the House Republicans over public media funding, a new Pew Research Center survey highlights widespread public and partisan uncertainty about whether there should be federal support for NPR and PBS. The Pew survey, conducted March 10th to 16th, found that 43% of Americans support continuing federal funding for NPR and PBS, while 24% believe the funding should be eliminated. Another 33% remain unsure, but that top-line number masks a deep partisan split. Among Republicans and Republican-leaning independents, 44% support ending federal funding for NPR and PBS, compared to just 19% who wanted to continue. Support for defunding is even stronger among Republicans over the age of 50. Meanwhile, only 5% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning respondents believe Congress should pull federal support, 69% favoring continued funding. Political polarization is also reflected in media consumption and trust. According to Pew, only 9% of Republicans say they regularly get news from NPR, compared to 32% of Democrats. Just 12% of Republicans trust NPR as a news source, while 26% say they actively distrust it. Among the Democrats, 47% trust NPR, and only 3% distrust it. Maher defends NPR's public service role, emphasizing its partnerships with local stations and recent efforts to diversify newsroom perspectives. She also clarified that federal support accounts for a small share of NPR's budget, roughly $11.2 million annually, and is mostly used to support the public radio satellite system, which she said helps safeguard our national security, civil defense, and disaster response. While NPR and PBS do receive much of their funding from donations and sponsorships, the proposed bill would eliminate all federal support for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which receives $535 million annually and helps fund both networks directly and through local stations. Tesla CEO and Department of Government Efficiency leader Elon Musk is among Republicans calling to defund NPR. The network has also fallen under scrutiny from FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr, who requested an investigation into whether NPR and PBS underwriting acknowledgments violate federal limits on promotional advertising. So it's obviously a very political decision here. Depending on what side you are, you want to keep it, you want it to go away. And unfortunately, that shouldn't be in what we see as news outlets and media.
You know, it's just another example of the division. The division is so wide. There's no middle ground. It's it's yes or no. It's one way or the other. There's no compromises, it seems. So we'll see where it all pans out. You know, some things are changing. Some policies have been reversed, but others are going full steam ahead. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with PBS and NPR.
So what's happening with our son? Well, our son this week was, it resembled, last week and the week before, where there's ups and downs, there's kind of mood swings because of the solar wind, but overall conditions were a little better. And as of this recording, conditions seem to be quite good. And of course, there are a few sunspots. 14055 has everything it needs to create pretty big solar flares, but the sun has been rather quiet. There could be some CME doing a little bit of geomagnetic unrest today, Sunday, but for the rest, quiet for now. The sunspot number 112. The solar flux 153, and do tune around the bands. There's lots of interesting signals out there, and for that you will need a radio and listen.
This is Glenn Hauser, on the air since 1987. You're tuned to the International Radio Report, 30 minutes of radio about radio, every Sunday morning on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal, and live streaming around the globe at ckut.ca.
Just quickly, I'd like to once again thank everyone who commented on last week's special show with our guest Wojtek Wjazda from the RCI Action Committee. Thank you for all your comments coming in, and it's really nice to see how many people miss RCI and wish it would come back. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, but thanks to Wojtek for filling us in on where things stand at this point in time. On to our next story from the Associated Press via CNN News. The headline is National Weather Service no longer translating products for non-English speakers. The National Weather Service is no longer providing language translations of its products, a change that experts say could put non-English speakers at risk of missing potentially life-saving warnings about extreme weather. The Weather Service has paused the translations because its contract with the provider has lapsed. National Weather Service spokesperson Michael Musher said he declined further comment. Lilt, an artificial intelligence company, began providing translations in late 2023, replacing manual translations that the Weather Service had said were labor-intensive and not sustainable. It eventually provided them in Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, French, and Samoan. The contract lapses come as President Donald Trump's administration is seeking to slash spending in federal agencies, including cuts within the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration that have led to high employee vacancy rates at the National Weather Service offices. NOAA referred questions about the contract to a message on its website announcing the contract had lapsed. Lilt did not respond to requests for comments. Nearly 68 million people in the United States speak a language other than English at home, including 42 million Spanish speakers, according to the 2019 census data. Not being able to read urgent weather alerts could be a matter of life or death, said Joseph Trujillo Falcone, a researcher at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, who has worked with NOAA, researching how to translate weather and climate information to the public, including the use of artificial intelligence. He said translated weather alerts saved lives during a deadly tornado outbreak in Kentucky in 2021. A Spanish-speaking family interviewed afterwards said they got a tornado alert on their cell phone in English, but ignored it because they didn't understand it, he said. When the same alert came in Spanish, they quickly sought shelter, he said. It saved their lives. He went on to say weather alerts used to be translated by forecasters that spoke more than one language, a task that could be completely overwhelming on top of their forecasting duties. The translations are important for more than extreme weather events, said Andrew Kruzikowicz, a senior researcher at the Columbia Climate School at Columbia University. General weather forecasts are essential for a number of sectors, including tourism, transportation, and energy. Families and businesses can make more informed decisions when they can get weather information that often includes actions that should be taken based on the forecast. Norma Mendoza-Denton, a professor of anthropology at the University of California, Los Angeles, said there are many people in the U.S. that function with limited English relevant to their daily routines. For example, a shopkeeper might be able to have short conversations with customers, but might not have the same understanding when it comes to reading weather or climate terminologies. If they don't have access to the National Weather Service information in different languages, that could be the difference between life and death for somebody. So it's an important service that maybe a lot of people didn't know about, but obviously the people who needed those other language services really did appreciate it being there. Now, it looks like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's sad to see that just for saving pennies, because in this case, we can't talk about something that probably cost that much money. You're just going to put the people's lives at risk, unfortunately. So we have a story about the VOA that goes off the air in Nigeria, Ghana, and others as Trump cuts off funding. This is from Punch Nigeria via Radioworld. When listeners in northern Nigeria tuned into Voice of America last month, they found music playing in their place of their regular broadcast. A telltale sign, historically, that soldiers had seized telecoms offices and even the government. Was there a coup in the U.S.? Babangida Jibrin, a VOA journalist, recalled one worried listener asking, as he and colleagues fielded unending calls after the U.S.-funded station abruptly went off the air on Friday. The dismantling of VOA by President Donald Trump administration has left a particular dent in northern Nigeria, where a now shuttered Hausa language service that Jibrin worked for served tens of millions in Africa's most populous country. The radio broadcast to Hausa speakers across rural Ghana, Cameroon, and Niger, where print media is sparse and internet service spotty, was a key resource for those not fluent in official languages like English or French. People are now cut off from news, especially international news, says Musa Jaharu from southern Niger, among the many VOA Hausa listeners living in poor areas prone to conflict and jihadist violence, who now find themselves further isolated. Established during World War II to counter Nazi propaganda, VOA expanded amid tensions between the United States and communist countries during the Cold War. Though backed by U.S. government funding, it was considered in modern times a source of reliable professional journalism in Nigeria, and an important alternative when other outlets were sometimes seen as too close to the government or business interests. Trump's first term, however, saw accusations that the president was politicizing the outlet. His second time around, he gutted its funding as part of his administration's massive budget cuts. While it's hardly a dead blow to Hausa language media, which serves an estimated 80 million people and banks on a strong radio culture in West Africa, it represents yet another hit against an already fragile industry, taking out a service with a widespread network of local stringers. In addition to daily news, VOA's health programming, including on HIV and, right as the rainy season starts, malaria, has also come to an abrupt end. It's really, really a shame, Sadibou Marong, West Africa chief for Reporters Without Borders, said, noting that VOA reported on areas hit by armed groups in Nigeria and Niger, even situations where the military pressured journalists to report favorably on their campaigns. The dismantling of VOA, currently being challenged in U.S. court, comes as Radio France International, including its Hausa service, has been banned by military authorities in Niger. Britain's BBC has recently hit with a 3-month suspension in the country. The establishment of radio stations in Kano City in 1944 entrenched a strong radio culture across northern Nigeria, which had a low English literacy rate during British colonial rule. With its syndication across local stations, VOA's service, established in 1979, could broadcast to millions in otherwise hard-to-reach rural locales. Nigerian listener Muhammad Mokhtar, who picked up a habit of waking up to the 6 a.m. broadcast from his father, said he was not worried about losing out on daily news. There are plenty of local stations. But the 50-year-old was worried about the loss of VOA's in-depth shows, including those on health, Islam in America, and a Nigerian political debate program called Hot Seat. I still have not come to terms with the shocking reality, he said. The service was also known for its solutions-based journalism, such as a story on a young inventor in Kaduna who used drones to monitor crop diseases, said Alassane Bala, another laid-off reporter. Other times, the network's stories prompted government investigations, including into concerns over dangerous heavy metal exposure in children from mining operations in Zamfara state. For the journalists, the decision to shut down the service is heartbreaking. Recounting the harassment he faced during the junta leader Sani Abacha's rule during the 90s, Gibran recalled through tears that there are places we used to go where they would address us as CIA agents. So now, who will have the last laugh? He asked, unsure how he will now be able to provide for his family. Bala received the news while working on a story for his Hausa language fact-checking website, Al Kalansi. I just said, oh my God, he told AFP, this is bad. Then he went back to his story, reckoning his fact-checking work is now more important than ever. So this shows the importance of VOA for millions of people, for journalists, for, they're talking about health issues. They're talking about, the news, what's happening in those areas that I'm sure news is hard to come by.
Yeah, what's sad is it seems that when the current government in the U.S. is looking at these cost-cutting measures, they're only thinking about news. They don't like the news that's being broadcast on these radio stations. But, as you just reported here, health reasons, weather-related information, crops for farmers, lots of other types of information that's vital to these people to get reliable information from other sources. Cutting it, yeah, they're saving some money, but the long-term effect that it's going to have on people and causes in different parts of the world, it's hard to measure.
Yep, unfortunately. So we have upcoming ham radio contests.
Busy weekend coming up next weekend for amateur radio. We'll start with the Israel Amateur Radio Club. They're holding the Holyland DX Contest, 2100 Zulu April 18th to 2100 Zulu April 19th. It's on all the major HF bands, 1.8, 3.5, 7, 14, 21, and 28. And the modes SSB, CW, and digital.
There's the Estonian Amateur Radio Union that's having the ES Open HF Championship, 0500 Zulu to 0859 Zulu April 19th. The bands are 80 and 40 meters only, and it's CW and SSB.
The Mulan DX Club is organizing the Worked All Provinces of China DX Contest, the 0600 April 19th to 0559 Zulu April the 20th. It's SSB, 80 through 10 meters, so look for a lot of Chinese ham operators on the bands.
The Association for Experimental Radio Research in the Netherlands is organizing the Dutch PACC DG Contest, 07 Zulu to 1900 Zulu April 19th. The modes are RTTY, FT4, and FT8, and it's 80 through 10 meters.
The Juiz de Fora CW Group of Brazil is holding the CQMM-DX Contest, 0900 April 19th to 2359 Zulu April 20th. The mode is CW, and the band's 80 through 10 meters.
There's the Michigan QSO Party, 1600 Zulu April 19th to 0400 Zulu April 20th. It's organized by the Mad River Radio Club. Modes are CW and SSB, and it's 80 through 10 meters without the work bands.
The EA Spanish QRP Club is holding the EA QRP CW Contest, 1700 Zulu April 19th to 1200 Zulu April the 20th, 80 through 10 meters, and the mode is CW.
We have the Ontario QSO Party, 1800 Zulu April 20th to 0500 Zulu April 21st, and 1200 Zulu to 1800 Zulu on April 21st, organized by the Contest Club of Ontario. The mode is SSB, CW, and FM, and it is 160 all the way up to 2 meters, with the exception of the work bands.
And right here in Quebec, organized by the Club de Radio Amateur Outaouais, the Quebec QSO Party, 1200 to 2200 Zulu on April the 20th. It is 80 meters through 2 meters, except the work bands. It is single sideband, FM, or CW. I know a lot of people like working Canadian ham stations, so you've got two contests, Ontario QSO Party and Quebec QSO Party, the same weekend. So should be a lot of Canadian ham activity on the bands.
Oh, yeah. And we are out of time.
We thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to contact us, our email address is radioreport@yahoo.com. Our show is live streamed and archived at ckut.ca. We have a Facebook group called International Radio Report. Haven't had any new members for quite a while, so if you've not joined the Facebook group, please do so. We're trying to push our way to 1,000 members, so we'd appreciate you joining the group. And finally, you can catch our show on YouTube at your convenience. Go to youtube.com/@IRR, and you can subscribe to the channel as well. That's going to do it. We thank you for listening, and we hope you'll be back again next week with our next edition of the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Sveriges Radio, utlandsprogrammet. Radio Sweden International.